All right, howdy everybody. Don't know. Hopefully, I got this clicked on there properly. Can't quite tell if this is working. All right. How's everybody doing today? I have some special guests here. I'm gonna click this in there. Oh my gosh. All right. It looks like. Cameras there. All right. How's everybody doing today?
Doing good.
Welcome to the Great Remake War. So today I thought I'd doing something a little bit different here. And again, just trying to come up with some fun, different live stream concepts. And what I've done here is I have a fairly comprehensive, this is not everything, but most of the major horror movie remakes. And what I want to do is I want to break it down and figure out which of these remakes just suck, which is probably a bunch of them. Which one of them are as good as the original, like on an even level, and which of those actually exceed the original, and trying to figure out which of these will come out as the victor, as the best one. Because I am of the controversial opinion in that I'm fine with remakes. I'm fine with it. If I don't care about it, if I love the original and I don't think that it can be improved upon, I just don't go. I just don't watch it. I just don't go see it. I leave it alone. It's fine. It doesn't affect me because I have the original. That's what I love, right? So that doesn't affect me. But what I do like about remakes in that instance is if I do love the original, sometimes I feel as if it does bring more attention to the original for a younger audience who now discover the original and think that it's better. Which is why I'm okay with it, because one of the ones that we'll talk about here is Evil Dead, right? The Evil Dead remake gets a lot of credit, I think, for being a better remake, and I'm fine with it. It's fine. It's not that great, but I don't think it's terrible. I think it's kind of like in the middle. I think it's I don't mind watching it, but I think that a lot of people, a lot of younger viewers, didn't know what Evil Dead was. Now they do, because of that remake that introduced it to a new audience. So it opened it up a little bit. So that's at times I'm fine with remakes because of that. And then you guys, I have my audience here. I have a virtual audience here, which are my patrons for Patreon. And I guess I'm allowed 6 on the screen here, so this is probably going to juggle up a little bit. I'll switch between people here and there if that's all cool. But it looks like I've got Steven up there. Morning, Steven. Looks like I've got Richard. How's it going, Richard? How you doing today? I've got Sable down there. Welcome back onto the stream.
Hi.
How's it going, Robert? How you doing this morning? I've got Freddie, Michael, Voorhees, three people that we will be speaking about today.
Incidentally, it is totally plausible that somebody is actually named Frederick Michael Voorhees, especially since I'm currently in the ass crack of Vermont right now, and I know that there is a Crystal Lake about 20 minutes from here. Also, cool. I am literally, and this is not a joke, and I am not trying to suggest another Camp Blood movie. There is a full lake with a clown camp down the street.
Oh, please no more Camp Blood movies. Please, dude, no more Camp Blood.
All I can think of, once I was told by, I'm staying at a friend's house with their family home, and once I was told that there's a clown camp down the street from a lake, I'm like, what kind of bad mashup is this?
You know what's sad is I would rather watch another Amityville movie than watch another Camp Blood movie. At least Amityville, you get some variety. Let's see. I'm going to switch out real quick here. So we also have in here, we've got Professor Victor. How you doing today?
I am great. Thanks, Josh, for having me. And I'm now waiting for Amityville Camp Blood.
Oh my God, yeah. Please no.
That's going to happen now.
Please, yeah,
I
it's
want
bound
that.
to.
Why? So we can all go into liver failure from whatever drinking game we turned it into?
It'll
thought
make
that
for
was
an
the whole
amazing
point.
movie timelines update, though.
Yeah, it would be. We also have, let's bring on the friendly neighborhood Uncle Pete. What's
Hey,
happening?
Josh. Thanks for having me. So since we're going to be talking about remakes, we have to talk about the rule of that some of the best remakes are the Fly, The Thing, The Hills Have Eyes, and The Blob.
Yes, that is correct. Although
Good child's play.
I will point out that one of my favorite remakes, I guess we'll get to that one. One of my favorite remakes removes the word "the." So, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. Because I like that quite a bit. We also have. Let me pull up here. Juggle here. We also have Travis is here as well too. Good morning, Travis. How you doing? Oh, no mic.
Hello, everyone.
So welcome onto the stream here. And then I think the final member of the group that we have with us today is AJ. How's it going, AJ? Oh, all right. Good morning. I see some Leatherface going on back there behind you as well, too. So I think your mic is AJ. I think your mic is not clicking.
For me?
There we go.
Okay. I was just saying that the people on the panels of the Dead Last have such awesome backgrounds. I felt I needed some posters behind or I might not fit in.
I know. I'm always bummed out by that because my background is not very exciting. It's rather bland. My interesting stuff, my little horror stuff, is actually like over here, so it's not like the best setup for.
It's for you, not for us. That's the whole point of it.
That's true. That's true. And plus, it's not all of it's horror because I do have, I have a little werewolf, a little finger puppet werewolf, but I also have a tiny birdhouse painted by Stella. And this is actually my favorite thing that I have on my horror thing. I love this. Mikey got me this. Mikey Rotella got me this when he found out that me and Christy were gonna have a baby.
Oh, that's great.
Mm-hmm. Stella loves this. She calls it Monster Baby. So
That's her little brother.
Mm-hmm. So let's talk about these remakes because there's a bunch of them. Obviously, there's tons and tons of remakes. And this is actually I went off of the Wikipedia horror movie remake page. It just said, show me a list of horror movies that have remakes, and it shows all of them. So there's a lot of them. I didn't include every single one that they had in there. And oddly enough, because it's Wikipedia, some of the things were wrong. Like they had a couple of movies in there that were not remakes; they were just movies. So it was kind of unusual. But what I did was I eliminated it. I went with the kind of, I think, some of the more well-known ones. Some of the lesser known ones, like say 2000 Maniacs and 2001 Maniacs, like the remake of that, I didn't really get into just because of notoriety. But the first one on the list is Amityville Horror, which is probably, I guess, one of the glossier remakes on here, which I just didn't much care for. Obviously, since we're talking about it, because I guess it's an Amityville movie, so I think caring for Amityville movies in general is not something I do. So I would kind of hope that it is not something that is generally something I think a lot of people do. And oddly enough, I have to say this, that I don't totally care for the original Amityville Horror movie. Like I never liked it growing up. I just wasn't a huge fan of it, and I still am not a huge fan. So I don't know. I don't know how much that I was really bothered by a remake of that one. Does anybody have huge love for that one that is different, that loves the original Amityville Horror, or even the remake?
I just think those movies, the reputation kind of superseded the actual film. Like the Amityville house with the certain windows and everything, and Get Out, walls dripping blood. It was parodied on The Simpsons and everything, so it kind of got all watered down. So, and that remake was just okay. So what? You didn't add anything. You just put super hunk Ryan Reynolds and the beautiful wife and all these beautiful people, like you said, and then and it was so what? It was like a pointless remake.
Yeah.
I absolutely agree with that. Because that film. Oh, sorry, Josh.
Oh no,
I
apologize. No problem. Real quick, but I just want to throw out there, because I don't have everybody up on camera, and I don't know if I can hear everybody that's not on stream. So it's real quick. Hey, Steven, say something really quick. Let me just see something. Okay, so I can't hear people. All right, so here's the thing. So if you're not up on the stream thing, and you got something, if you have some input, please raise your hand up or whatever like that, and so I can switch out, because I don't want to. I'm still getting used to the StreamYard multiple people up on the screen thing. So if you've got deep love for an Amityville remake, let me make sure and flag me, so I'll try and switch out. This is be a little bit of a juggling act.
I feel like deep love is a really strong set of terms.
Yeah,
I know.
If you have a remote opinion.
I feel like
I did like the sequel because somebody was talking horror movies. It was in a death metal video that I was watching, and the guy was talking about, Amityville 2. First one sucks. He goes, watch the second one. So that's the first one I watched of the series. Yeah. I really enjoyed the second one. Then I watched the first one. I was like, oh.
I think Uncle Pete zeroed in on something that's going to be important for everything we talk about today, which is, horror remakes kind of fall into this Goldilocks land where either they're too much like the original, or they're not or they're not enough like the original. Either they adhere too close to the material or not enough, and finding that sweet balance in between is what makes it successful. And Uncle Pete's right that in Amityville, it's too much like the original. It's basically the same movie, but with funky Ryan Reynolds, which is a selling point. Let's be honest, but it's not enough.
I know, and oddly enough, I think I'm one of the few people on the planet, apparently, that actually really likes Ryan Reynolds as a human being. I think he's actually I think he's a great dude. But I don't like him in movies. I don't think he's that great in movies. I'm not a Ryan Reynolds fan as an actor. I mean, I think that he's a great dude. I think that he everything I've seen from him and his personality and his contributions to society and everything like that, he seems like he's pretty awesome. But I just don't like him in movies. I just think he's
the perfect Deadpool. He, as a comic fan, he's the perfect Deadpool.
He does crush that, I agree.
But that's not acting at that point. It's just him being. And I agree.
Which is why it works for him. He's just being Ryan Reynolds.
It's the same thing why his part in Waiting was so great, because he was just playing a smarmy, smart-mouthed, douchebag. Yeah. But to be honest, I agree with Josh to the point of, his acting. I mean, acting is a loose term in a lot of cases, but let's be fair. 90% of the people watching him on screen are not really watching him for the acting, and they're watching him for if they're a heterosexual male or a gay female or anything else identifying that isn't attracted to his physical shape, then they're basically liking it for whatever he's doing goofily, or however he's directing that sarcasm at the screen. So Amityville doesn't make any sense for those people, and you don't get to see him as shirtless as you'd like if you do have that sexual interest. It tends to lend.
I do appreciate him stretching in Amityville. He's trying to do something different than what he normally does. Questionable whether he's successful in it, but I appreciate the effort.
Yeah. and even as even as a straight guy, I certainly appreciate a shirtless Ryan Reynolds as much as anybody.
As
how
as
you-
usual.
He's definitely the attractive man.
I know. I look at that and I'm just like, Jesus Christ, what the hell's happening here?
That's how I felt when I met Jason Momoa at a Comic-Con, and I shook hands, and I'm like 5'7", so I'm looking up like this, and I'm like, and we're both men. It's not fair.
All right, so we're moving on to the next one. I'm declaring Amityville. Myself, I'm declaring it to be as good as the original, just because I think that they're both mediocre. And honestly, I feel like either one, whatever. That's my declaration. I'm declaring it as good. The next one on the list is one that maybe less people have seen, and it's April Fool's Day, which I'm going to flat out tell you right now that I find the original April Fool's Day movie to be pretty great. It is a fairly standard slasher movie for the 80s. It doesn't really reinvent it, but I do love the hook of it and the twist at the end and everything. I love the characters. I think it does a good job. So I really enjoy it. If you haven't seen April Fool's Day, you oughta. It's a really fun slasher flick that's fairly harmless at the end of it all. And the remake is Lifetime Channel garbage. It's really, really bad. So if you haven't seen it, I'm going to just go ahead and declare it as not as good as the original, nor better. It's terrible. So that's off the list. That loses the war.
I double down.
What's that?
Yeah, I double down on that because that remake is horrible. It's just why? The original is so quirky and unique and its own thing.
Yes.
That's
The
the
remake
case,
was like
for example, of
watching
one
stuff-
that's not enough like the original at all. It's like so far away from the original that it's just a different movie with the same name.
Yes.
It was like the
Yeah.
CWB version of April Fool's Day. It was the humor was flat. That you didn't care about any of the characters.
Yeah.
No.
None. Not like the original. The original, I love those first scenes when a guy fell off the boat. Those are like, oh shit, what's happening?
Yeah.
There was nothing like that in the remake.
Yeah, I've
Alright.
had the good fortune to not have seen the remake, so because I was like, oh, okay, I'm gonna pass.
Yeah, that is a good tactic to have. So going to next one down on the list. This one's going to be a pretty easy categorization. But there's actually two remakes, and that's Black Christmas. And Black Christmas, yeah. Obviously the original is a masterpiece. It is one of the defining moments of horror. It is ground zero of slasher flicks. Fantastic movie. You cannot go wrong with the original Black Christmas. You have two remakes. You've got the 2005 one, and you have the 2019 version. I might be somewhat controversial right here when I say that I actually prefer the 2019 version to the 2005 version, but not by much. I just really disliked the 2005 version.
Wow.
The 2019 version was also bad. But I think because at least it was something different-ish, I wasn't as mad about it, I guess. If that's any sort of praise, I guess take it as such. But actually, we have a new addition here. How's it going, Heather?
Good. I was having some technical issues, so
Oh, no problem.
well.
Welcome on to the stream here. And I'm going to switch some things up a little bit here just because I'm going to try to do this regularly just to keep everybody in the loop and fresh. But yeah, I mean, to me, this is an easy win. Is there anybody that thinks that either of the remakes is better than the original or as good as?
God, I hope
even
not.
even you guys out there on YouTube that are watching over in the chat, if there's anybody that feels as if it is any of them are better, but I myself am just not appreciative of it, so I'm going to mark those as worse. But now we go on to one of the greats, and let me just keep switching this up a little bit, although I do know that somebody I have to keep on the screen for this one right here is I need to make sure I keep Uncle Pete on the screen because the next movie alphabetically is The Blob. And I know that you are going to want to say something about The Blob because it is one of my personal favorite remakes. I think that it is one that is better than the original, although I do really enjoy the original. The original is great, and when you look at a movie, for me, it's very tough because when you watch movies that are older, I try to watch them in the perspective of the time frame that they're made, which is a hard thing to do. But when you understand that you're watching Psycho, Psycho is one that if you sit down and watch Psycho under the perspective of somebody from 2021, and you're sitting there watching Psycho, it's a movie that could be shown on a Saturday afternoon. A little kid could watch Psycho and only be mildly traumatized by it. It is not what I think a modern audience would consider to be terrifying, yet when it was released, people were running out of the theater. People were horrified and terrified by it. It was shocking, the things that were on screen with Psycho. So you have to put that into perspective. And I think when you watch The Blob, it does feel quaint and it does feel dated and it does feel like old timey, but it's an enjoyable movie. It's still very fun and I like it quite a bit. But the remake just amplifies everything in the best possible way. The remake does what I think that a great remake does. And I talk about this in our upcoming episode of Dead Last, which is coming out next week. But my opinion of what makes a great remake is when they take the original and it still feels like the original, but yet they amplify it. And they take it and then they add to it, right? And that's what The Blob did. The Blob took what you know, it gave you the meteor flying down and crashing into the ground. It gave you the blob. It gave you the hobo poking it and the getting killed by it. It gave you all of the notes that you were expecting, and then purposefully threw you some curveballs, and then amplified the story. You've got the military coming in. You have this like this virus aspect of it, with the guys in the hazmat suits and the pretending as if the town was like overrun by some sort of weird virus. It was excellent, and I love it. Plus, the special effects were one of the most amazing things and still hold up today. So I can definitely tell you that the Blob, in my opinion, better than the original. Is there anybody that has a problem with that? Is there anybody that's just like, no, how dare you?
I don't see how they can, because I have to talk about my love for that movie. I remember watching the original as a kid, then when it was on a Saturday afternoon, watching it with my dad. Okay, it was a little 8-9-year-old. It's kind of scary. Okay, because it's not like any other horror slashers that can come and get you, and things like that. So, but that remake and the special effects, I remember. Okay, it's poking in the stick. Everything is. Sorry, my Alexa. So sorry, where was I? Yeah, you got the whole part with the remake and everything, with the poking in the stick and everything. And okay, you know that it's going to dissolve you. And then you see that dude's face melt back and the arm peeling off. It scared the crap out of me.
Yeah.
It was just, and then the other scene with the guy on the ceiling and the yo-yo. You've never seen anything like that before, except for a few other movies. Just those practical effects were so terrifying. And they killed the kid. And like you said, they took the original, and it felt like, yep, I'm watching The Blob.
Yeah.
Okay, these special effects, what to expect. But then you still have seen it I wish I could see it again with virgin eyes. That's how terrifying that movie is. And when you had that list earlier in the year, the most horrible way to die, I was adamant the Blob has got to be in the top 10 because just the look of it. And the most scary thing about it, I think, is because you can't reason with it, distract it. Any other, protagonist in a film, you could think of ways to maybe distract or reason with, just slow them down. But this is just some mindless slime that is just out to dissolve everything. And you don't know how to kill it. By accident, they found out it's the cold.
Yeah.
I'm
a huge fan of that movie that easily, did not mean to do that. Easily one of my favorites on there. It's going to be one on there that I think is one of the best. But the next one on the list is, I think, also pretty comparable. Now, this one's going to be tricky because there are a few remakes. There are several remakes of this movie. And that's Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
I like the original more.
Well, here's this is where we're getting, because you actually have several remakes. You've got the original, which is great. It's a great movie. You've got the 1978 one, which is just Invasion of the Body Snatchers, eliminating the. So there, that's one for Uncle Pete, where they took the away. So you have just Invasion of the Body Snatchers, which is, in my opinion, as good as the original. Not better, but it's as good as the original, because I love the original and I love the 78 version. They're both great. Then you have the 93 Abel Ferrara version, which I like. I actually think it's pretty good, but it's not as good. But I don't think I would put it in a bad remake category. And I'm not even sure if I would call it a remake. It feels more like a sort of a side sequel. And then, of course, you have Invasion, which is a remake, which just straight up sucks. That's just terrible. But I do think the 78 version, the Philip Kaufman with Donald Sutherland in it, is also great. And it does it kind of follows that pattern. It sort of does what we're talking about, where it is the original. I mean, it's very similar plot point by plot point of the original. But it does accentuate it a little bit. Maybe one of the only criticisms of it would be that it does follow the original a little bit too closely, I guess. That it doesn't add enough, but I think it does add some stuff, and the atmosphere in that movie is just outstanding. Outstanding stuff. But
how would you include Puppet Masters? Like a soft reboot type or adjacent?
Yeah, just a similar-ish concept. You know what I mean? Like almost as if, like I would include that in the same. I would feel about that as I would with like Lost Boys and Near Dark. They're just two movies that have similar-ish villains but are presented in a different way. Like, because Puppet Masters, which I believe, I might be wrong here, but I believe the book of Puppet Masters, the Heinlein's book of it, I think came first, but I don't quite know. I think that predated the movie.
I remember hearing that on Good Bad Flicks, that when he covered the movie, that the book did come out first.
I think that Heinlein's book came first, but I don't quite. I'm not 100% on that. I'd have to look it up, but I think that might be the truth. But yeah. So I think that like it's just similar villains, but just obviously different.
But Donald Sutherland is in it, though.
Yeah. Yes. It is a bridging of that. I like that little nod there. But okay, so then the next one. This one's weird because I don't know how much people call this a straight up remake. But you have, let me switch up the screen a little bit here too. The next one is Cabin Fever, which had an odd remake, which was an interesting way of doing it because they just remade the movie, but they used the original script. So I guess it was sort of like the whole Psycho shot-for-shot remake experiment, but in a different way, where they just used the original script and then had a different director and different cinematographer obviously interpret it, which I think is an interesting experiment. But here's the thing: I will certainly say that it is not as good as the original, and I'm saying that as somebody that does not even care for the original. I'm not a fan of Cabin Fever. I'm not a big Eli Roth fan. I'm not a fan of his style and his characters and writing techniques. He just doesn't hit any of those notes for me. So I'm just not particularly a fan of the Rothster, and Cabin Fever is one of those ones I'm just not that big on. And the remake at least showed that Eli Roth did have some style. He does have a directorial style, because the remake is so devoid of style and so devoid of atmosphere and anything. There's no mood to it. It feels like a TV movie. It's so flat and bland and uninteresting, that at least it pointed to, hey, Eli Roth has a style. You may not like it, like I don't, but at least he has one. At least he can bring that to the table. So there you go. So I'm taking that off the list. It is not even consideration. The next one, there are 2 remakes, but one of them was a TV movie, so I'm not counting it, and it's Carrie. And the remake was with I don't remember her name, Hit Girl, whatever.
Chloe Moretz.
There you go.
Grace Moretz.
Chloe Grace Moretz, yeah. She's playing Carrie, and the original Carrie is an interesting one because I think we talked about this on the Stephen King Dead Last episode. Is that growing up, when I was younger, I didn't like Carrie. Wasn't a fan of the movie, and when I watched it when I was older, I wanted to go back into younger Josh and slap him in the face and be like, "What? How do you not like this? This is a great movie. What are you, crazy? This movie's great. Look at it. Look at it." And I'm going to basically, without getting too much into repeating myself, I'm going to say the same exact thing that I say about that Cabin Fever remake, is that it just took the original framework and just stripped of it of its any style. And Professor Victor, I'll point out what you said earlier, is that sometimes they just are so bound to the storyline of the original that it doesn't bring up anything new. And when you had Carrie, not only did you not give us something new, but then you took away the style of it. So in essence, you're not even giving us more. You're giving us less. Which why would you want to give somebody less?
I totally agree. I think the only thing that they were trying to bring to the table was some really good actors, namely Julianne Moore, who I thought was actually really well cast. The problem with Chloe Moretz is I think she's a good actor, but she doesn't have that awkward otherness that Sissy Spacek has. Well, nobody does. But in this role, it's in particular a problem because I don't buy that she wasn't a popular girl. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not buying. If they could have gone like an Angela Bett or something, who I think actually is in the TV version of it, then it maybe works a little bit better. But as good an actress as she is, you're not buying. I buy Sissy Spacek. Just take one look at her, and I'm like, yeah, that girl's getting bullied. But Chloe, I didn't buy it, and it undercuts the movie. It cuts it off at the knees completely right at the get-go. And then if you're not doing anything different with that aspect of it, it's just a waste. It's
pointless. So then that brings us down to one here that this one might have the most conversation about it because this is one that is interesting to me, and it's Child's Play. And I guess that there's some love for the Child's Play remake.
I have not seen it.
No, just no.
Yeah, I
like it. I mean, it's not as good as the original, but I like it.
Yeah,
I like Mark Hamill. Okay, I've explained everything I like about that movie.
Well, it's funny because I do like some of the people. Like I love Mark Hamill. I like Mark Hamill doing voices. I like Aubrey Plaza. Aubrey Plaza's great, and I thought casting her as a youngish mom, I thought that was nice casting, and she pulled that off well. That little kid in the movie, I really, for some reason, that little kid I think is actually really good. He is God. This is such a bizarre reference, but if you've ever heard of a band called Wolfie's Just Fine, Wolfie's Just Fine is a side project of a comedian named John LaJoy. I'm not quite sure how to say his name. John LaJoy. He's a comedian. He's been on TV, and he has a lot of like very funny
the
videos.
League?
What?
Is he Taco on the League?
Yes, he's the guy in the League. Yeah, and he has a serious band called Wolfie's Just Fine, and they're mostly serious. Like some of their lyrics are a little humorous, but he had a couple of music videos. One was called A New Beginning, which is actually about being a little kid and watching Friday the 13th Part 5. It's a great video, and it reproduces that whole like forest sex scene. And it's a really cool video. But he's the little kid in that video, and he's also in one of their other videos. And he's just like, the kid has a good face, and he's very like emotive, and like in the videos, I'm always just like, that kid's good. That kid really plays off these emotions really well. So I was like, when he showed up in Child's Play, I was just like, oh, that's that kid. That's that kid from that video. And then it was just, I just hated it. And the weird thing is I don't even know if I can nail down what I hated about it. Maybe I will when we get to the Child's Play Dead last, and I'll figure it out, like express what I hated about it. But I'm just not a fan. Is there anybody that liked it more than the original? Anybody? Nobody? Okay. Thank you. Then thank you.
I like it, but not nearly as much as I like the original. I just ask everybody: would people like it better if it just wasn't called Child's Play? Because they really did their own thing with the AI instead of voodoo and everything. Would it have gone down better if it wasn't called Child's Play, or is it just bad anyways to you?
For me, I still wouldn't have cared for it because ultimately, I do feel as if when I watch a remake, I can separate my feelings for that apart from it and just base it on the story. I just didn't like the story, and it wasn't so much that it was an AI, because I feel as if an AI gone wrong could have worked for this storyline if it was implemented in a way that made any sort of sense. But it didn't make any sense to me. I don't know.
They already did the evil AI in iRobot.
Yeah. Well, and lots of movies as well too. I mean, there was like plenty. I mean, hell, Chopping Mall. It's like, it's like. So I don't know.
A little film called 2001.
Yeah.
I definitely think 2001's better.
Yes.
All right, so I'm taking that off the list. That is not as good as the original, nor is it better. But then we get to one that I do like quite a bit, which is the Crazies. Which this is an interesting one, because the Crazies I actually do think is better than the original, and I do like the original, but I do think it's one of Romero's a little more unrealized films. I feel as if he had some very good concepts for it and some good intentions, but I don't necessarily think it works as well as some of his other films did. Overall, it was much more uneven. Whereas I think the Crazies remake was more focused, a little more centralized. It still had a little bit of social commentary going on to it, but not much. It was way more subtle. And it didn't get grounded in that. And I think that just worked really well. So I love it. Does anybody think I'm crazy on that? Or
I can't remember if I've seen it or not.
Yeah.
I've always seen the remake.
Yeah. The original one, I feel like it's not even, that's the other thing too, is I feel as if the original one's just not that widely seen. So but I'm putting it down as better. So that's actually in my better list. All right. Next one. The next one I know is going to be provocative, I guess, because I know that there are some people out there that really enjoy it, but it's Dawn of the Dead. And I think I've said now on several episodes of Dead Last that I'm not that crazy about the remake. I like half the remake. The first half of the remake, I really enjoy. The second half of the remake, I check out. It's one of the few movies in life that I can pinpoint the exact moment that I start to not care. And the moment in Dawn of the Dead remake that I don't care anymore is the exact moment that the truckload of other people show up. Because up until that point, it's a nice little character study. You have enough people in the mall that you can focus on these people and their plight and their storyline. And then like 7 other people show up. And at that point on, you lose track of who anybody's character was, anybody's arc, anybody's motivation. There was a point in the movie where somebody is killed, and in the theater, when I saw this in the theater, I actually turned to my friend who I was going to see it with, and I said, who just died? Who was that? Who was that character? I don't even know who that character was. I mean, it's just that point is in the beginning, and it's such a shame because the beginning of that movie, the setup of that movie is so good. All of the suburbia stuff is so great that just to see the second half of the movie go into like an action movie, it was very disappointing. There was still some good stuff. Like I loved the interplay between the guys on the roof. Loved that whole stuff. How that storyline bore out was terrible. But the setup of that storyline was very good. You know, the girl chasing her dog through an ocean of zombies. So like how that all played into things, no.
It just needs to be simplified and stripped down.
Yeah, exactly. It just they needed to focus on what made that movie great, which was the characters. And
I actually like that movie quite a bit, but every single thing you just said is true, and I can't refute any of it.
Yeah, honestly, like you watch the first half of that movie, and I do myself the favor of, especially with most remakes, I try to go into them and pretend they're not a remake and they're just a separate movie. Yeah. And with that, it was really easy to do that first half because while it was visceral and that first opening scene, and then just the traveling to like while she's driving and everything is blowing up and it's all going wrong was such a gut punch. That whole opening, you know, it was such a gut punch that you were like, I'm in for this movie. And then there's just like, there is that drop off. It's so sharp too. And I mean, I remember the other characters in the respect of their physical characteristics, and that's about the max of it.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, I remember Max Headroom. I remember he's in there, you know.
I always see him as the dad from Honey, I Shrunk the Kids.
Well, all right. So then, I'm calling that one in my mind. I'm saying that's not as good, nor is it better. So I'm striking it from my list. Hopefully, does anybody have any sort of issue with that? Anybody? No. All right, good. Because I'm taking it out there. All right. The next one is going to be super quick because it's the 2008 Steve Miner version of Day of the Dead versus the original Day of the Dead.
We don't have to talk about this.
I think the less said about it, the better, because it is as big of a turd. I can tell you right now that I do honestly believe that it deserved to be the dead last of the Romero episode. The fact that it was not dead last upset me so much that because when we did the dead last, it easily would have been my dead last of the entire. It was the worst thing I watched all last year. It wasn't the first time I'd seen it, but oh my Lord, did I hate it. So moving on, that's off the list. Next up is one that I mentioned a little bit earlier, which is the Evil Dead remake, which a lot of people do have quite a bit of love for. I myself do enjoy the Evil Dead remake. I think it has problems. I don't overwhelmingly love it. It's not a movie that I would put on. Like the original one, I'd put on just to watch it and be like, yeah, let's watch Evil Dead, whatever. The remake, I wouldn't just put on for the hell of it. You know, if somebody said to me like, hey, let's watch the 2013 Evil Dead, I would say, yeah, cool. All right, let's do it, whatever. But I wouldn't suggest it.
I really wish I loved it, but it's okay. I really appreciate so much about it, but I didn't care about the characters. And if I don't care about the characters in the movie, I just can't get engaged.
Yes. And here's the crazy thing for me too. And I said this I appeared on Ryan Hill's channel, Hill House Productions. We did a thing about remakes that he thought were better than the original. We talked about this, and I can tell you what the one thing the biggest problem that I have with the remake is the characters, is falling for the characters. And one of the biggest issues with that is that you have this guy who's your Ash character who you're with through the movie, and you're basically told this is your main character, and you're giving his sister Mia, and you're basically told throughout the whole movie she's the villain, she's the girl in the cellar, she's your driving antagonist. And then in the last 15 minutes or so, you switch it, and now your main character's dead, and this person you've been rooting against for the past hour is suddenly your main character. And I just thought that was a really hard thing to slam your viewer with in the last minutes, to be like, here's this character. She's essentially a new character because you really only had a few minutes in the beginning to get to know this person before she turned like crazy evil. And now all of a sudden in the last couple of minutes, it's just like, here's this character, root for her and have empathy with her. And it I don't know if it worked. I just don't. It was a clever twist in that, hey, this guy you think is Ash, he's dead now. He ain't Ash. But I don't know if it worked totally for me.
I think it should have happened halfway through the film, and then it shifted in the second half to be an Evil Dead 2 remake. And I think that would have been awesome.
I'd be all right with that.
It worked for me, but I got to admit, Steven's idea is pretty cool. I do like that idea. I liked it because I didn't want a replacement Ash. I like original Ash, and the fact that he pops up in the end credit cameo. Sable mentioned this in her comments, and I don't want to step on her thought, but basically, that a great remake is one that can slide into the world that's been set up. And there's a lot of talk about whether or not this is actually a remake or just another side story in the same universe. And I like that you can have that debate because they've not replaced Ash. He can still exist in there. So that's one of the things I liked about it a lot. I also like the commitment to practical effects in the movie. That sad that we have to kind of give credit to that these days, but yeah, it was nice to see that.
If you're ever in a room with Mikey, do not say that. Do not say that, because Michael will be like, yeah, I want to see his practical effects too. And in the first 10 minutes, you got a girl in CGI flames burning up in CGI flames. Where's the practical effects there?
I mean, he's not wrong.
That's my Mikey impression.
And it's spot on
I love Mikey.
my whole I was literally gonna bring that back up again anyway. But yeah, like if they had taken the 5 minutes to go, like when writing the script, to be like, hey, we know we want to do another Evil Dead, but we have the opportunity to make another Evil Dead in this world. And I mean, heck, Raimi even did it in his own world. So it's not like it can't be done. So why would you not?
Yeah, I mean, that's why I got to tell you, I am interested in Evil Dead Rise, because I do feel as if it's taking the concepts and transplanting it and telling something new with it. So I'm looking forward to that. Cautiously optimistic, I guess, is the words I'm going for here. We'll see what happens, but I don't know, anything that has the words Evil Dead on it, I'm generally down for. So there you go.
I wanted to say, you talked about, is remake better or just maybe it's good or worse. Well, something I want to add to it is, in like the Evil Dead remake, the practical effects that they did do were fun. They were fun to watch.
Yeah.
So I'll also say in some aspects, is a remake, is it at least a fun? Maybe it's not as good or worse, but did they maybe have fun with it?
Yeah.
And yeah, that's what I think of some remakes, and kind of think of it as the Evil Dead remake. Same
Yeah,
way in that aspect.
That's how I feel, because I mean the Evil Dead remake, I enjoy it, but again, I think it's one of those instances of, if you asked me right now and said, hey, we're gonna watch Evil Dead, do you want to watch the original or do you want to watch the remake? 9 times out of 9 I'm gonna say the original. So it's I just wouldn't choose to watch the remake over top of it. But if someone said, hey, we're going to watch the Evil Dead remake, I would be like, oh, yeah, cool, let's do it. You know, if there was no choice and like I only had the choice of the remake, I'd be down for that.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, so now let us go on to our next guy here is this is going to talk about maybe 30 seconds on this because it's such an obvious, and it's The Fly. And The Fly, I'm just going to say right now, it's better than the original. Even though I do greatly appreciate the original, I greatly appreciate the original Fly. Again, it's one of those movies you have to put in the context of when it was made. But it was a great classic horror flick that Cronenberg just took and ran with and made a masterpiece. It's a masterpiece. So there you go. Moving on.
Yeah, I don't think anybody really needs to clock in on that one.
I know. I don't think anybody disagrees with that. And if they do disagree with that, I don't know if I want to hear it. So
well, I will qualify my disagreement and say it's a different movie in the same universe.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I definitely think that, it's one of those ones that, and again, this is kind of the same thing that I've said before, is that it's the framework of the original, like the basic plot structure of the original is replicated and then just amplified and altered and accentuated in a new way. And I think that just made it great. Okay, I think we've got time for one or two more before we clock out of this episode, and then this will continue. I'll probably come back next week with more remake talk and getting through this alphabet, but there's a lot on here. This one is one that I think is going to be pretty easy to decide, and it's The Fog, which is, I don't know if I'd call it one of the worst remakes ever, but it's certainly...
I mean, you could.
Yeah, it's close to it. And oddly enough, here, this is the thing, and you'll find out about this on the next Dead Last episode, is that I don't have as much love for the original Fog as I used to. Like, I still think it's a great horror flick, but like, I think in comparison, like I feel as if it's one of Carpenter's, like, I guess, lesser entries, just because it is, just because I feel like it's just a very standard horror flick for the time. There are some fun things to it, but The Fog doesn't go above and beyond like a lot of those other Cronenberg films from the era did, in really changing the game up. Whereas I felt like it was kind of less like, no, I'm just going to play the game and I'm going to show you how it's done right. And here is a classic 80s horror movie done really well. Whereas I think all of other Carpenter's movies were just like, you guys are making 80s horror movies? I'm making something that's 20 years in the future. All right, this is what movies will be like 20 years from now. This is how good this is going to be. And The Fog, I please don't get me wrong. I do love The Fog, but I guess not as much as I don't have as much reverence for it as I think I used to. But The Fog remake, I have zero reverence for. So
I honestly couldn't tell you much more of the, like, I cannot recall. I know I saw the remake, but it's genuinely like it's just gone. Like I think I've just completely forgotten. It's a fog. I am in a fog. There you go. That is the logical course. I mean, the original. I think the original was a throwback specifically for Carpenter. I think that was Carpenter making a movie for Carpenter's like teenage self, like for him to have gone and watched. I think that's what the original fog was, and then I think, you know, as like making a remake of it, you needed to either A, go full 80s craziness, or go the opposite direction. Just pick something that was the era of the director and let like their teen years and do it that way. And that way it would keep the same kind of vibe of being slightly off, but also fun in its own right. But they didn't. And I genuinely forgot the whole bloody movie.
So real quick, because we're going to move on to the last one we're going to talk about today, but I do want to point out, because I just saw a comment in the chat about funny games, and I will say one thing I didn't put into this particular roster is American remakes of foreign films, because I actually think that I want to talk about that on a different video for other reasons. So that's why I'm not talking about things like The Grudge and The Ring. One of my favorite remakes is actually The Ring. Like I actually think that it's actually a really well done remake of an international movie. I'll talk about things like that. Like I'm sure we'll talk about Let Me In, which is a fairly serviceable remake of Let the Right One In. It's all right, but we'll talk about that on a separate roster. So these are just like American remakes of American movies. We'll talk about the international redos at a later date, but we'll cap off this particular stream with talking about the Friday the 13th remake, which...
Do we have to talk about it?
I know.
Get that.
I know. I like to forget about it, but I know some. But here's the thing. I know that a lot of people love it. People do love it. There's a lot of appreciation for that remake. I'm not one of them.
I was so hopeful. I was like, okay, Robert and Jack Earl Haley. Man, I loved him in Watchmen. I think he could play the role. I think he can, get that, not the humor side of Freddy. He can get the evil Fred Krueger from number one. But they really forced the sexual abuse theme down your throat. Instead of maybe alluding toward it, they just shoved that down your throat, and it just became that's all they wanted to focus on, and it ruined Freddy. Because everybody knows Freddy from like Dream Warriors. They were selling Freddy gloves. Nobody wants a glove of a child molester.
Oh, wait, Pete. Uncle Pete, we're talking about the Friday the 13th remake, though.
What is wrong with me? I apologize. And I just
like, wait, sexual abuse in the Friday the 13th remake? What part did I miss?
Isn't Sam Winchester in it? I know I saw it on my birthday. That's what I got.
That is embarrassing.
Had that damned up for years.
Yeah, I was just going on and on. I'm embarrassed.
No, it's fine. Because I know how much hatred that people have for the Nightmare on Elm Street. Like, if Derek was on this stream right now, every single movie we talked about, he would do what you did. I'd be like, all right, next up, we're going to talk about Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And Derek would be like, yeah, but that Nightmare on Elm Street remake, that was terrible. Let me tell you all things. Well, now we're going to talk about The Fly. Yeah, but let's go back to talking about Jackie Earle.
I mean, honestly, I agree entirely. So you're good.
I know. The hatred for that Nightmare on Elm Street remake is so great that I know that it comes out at times you don't expect it.
And it's funny because I like the Friday the 13th remake. I actually enjoy that movie. It's not bad. The one with the guy with the hockey mask, right? Okay.
Yeah, hockey mask guy. Yeah, that one. But the Friday the 13th remake, it's kind of funny because I guess that like if you're talking about it being a remake, it's not really a remake of Friday the 13th. It's more of just like a remake of Jason, because like the contents of the original Friday the 13th movie literally happened before the credits of the remake. So it's kind of hard to say that that's a remake of Friday the 13th, and it's more a remake of it's more remake of Friday Part 2 and 3 than it is Friday the 13th. But I mean, I get it. You got to have Jason, and you got to have Jason in your movie, so it does make sense. But I am just not a fan, and I think that it's because I've seen that movie. I think I've seen the remake like 4 or 5 times now. All 4. If I've seen the movie 4 times, 3 times were specifically for the channel, and not because I want to watch it. I only watched it 1 time because I'm like, oh, let's check it out. Oh, that sucked. And then like it's just then it was kind of like, okay, well, I'm doing a video on Friday the 13th. I gotta watch the remake. And I've seen it that many times. And right now, if I'm trying to like think about scenes in the movie, very few things pop into my head. Like it's that bland. And I think that what we've talked about before is that the great remakes take the framework of the original and add to it. And this added nothing. It was just like, all right, you want a bunch of kids in the woods getting killed by a guy repeatedly. Here it is. There you go. They're here.
This added Jason takes hostages.
Yeah,
that's about it.
Which I did not need. I did not need that at all. But I don't know. So there you go. So I'm putting that down as not as good. I'm removing that from the list. So right now, the only ones that I have remaining on here, some of these are pretty obvious, is I have the Blob, Body Snatchers 78, the Crazies, and the Fly is what I have as remaining on contention for being the best remakes. I think that ultimately, when this is all said and done, I think everybody knows what the best horror movie remake is. I don't even think we have to get down to the T's before everyone knows what I'm talking about. But
why? Whatever could you mean?
I don't know what thing could you be talking about. I don't know what thing.
It's the kind of thing that you would never think about.
Yeah, I have no idea what.
But that's it. I wanted to keep this stream to an hour, just because I don't want to take too much time out of everybody's day. And there's a 4-year-old upstairs that I have distracted by cartoons that I don't know how much longer are going to keep her occupied. So I do need to go make sure she's okay. And also I have to go finish rendering out some stuff, because I will take a few seconds to give you some updates. That there is a timeline video coming out this Friday. It's a new horror timeline. I will tease that it does involve some miniature monsters again. Not maybe a little bit different kind. And I guess the thing I'll also throw out is that I think the sun is out right now, but it could be a full moon a little bit later. But anyway, then next Monday, we have an update video. I'm updating one of these series that I haven't, that has had a couple of new entries in between the time that I've done the timeline and now. And I'm focusing on those. And it's fairly in depth because there's only 2 movies and the video is like 14 minutes long. So obviously there's a lot to talk about from a timeline perspective. So you've got that. And then I will just flat out announce it that next Friday, 1 week from this Friday, you get part 1 of the great John Carpenter Dead Last 2-parter spectacular, which I'm super psyched about. I'm this deep into editing it right now. I have almost finished editing the first half, and then the second half. The first half will premiere on Friday, and then the second half will follow up a few days later on the Monday video. So you'll get all 18 movies that we're covering in the space of a couple of days. It's
Are
really
you reversing the order or no?
What's that?
Are you reversing the order? Because I know that was a suggestion during. I apologize about the dog.
We've decided to keep it going from Dead Last down to first. I've done a couple of polls on the channel, and people seem to really want it to be going from Dead Last down to first. I even asked all of the people that normally appear on the show what they thought, and the general consensus is that people want to start off talking about bad movies and then lead up to the thing, like the one that they love the most, and end the show on a positive note with a lot of reverence, which I get. I like both ways. I see the good and the bad in both formats, but ultimately it sounds as if the viewing audience wants to see it from dead last down to first. So what dog calamities happening here?
Yeah, it's everywhere. It's she's like, if you're female, you have a dog near you that's barking on this.
I know. And then I will also say that, hey, August 13th is a Friday. So there's a Friday the 13th. So I've already covered a lot of Friday the 13th stuff this year. So I don't know if I could talk about more Friday the 13th movies.
Just talk about Nightmare on Elm Street like I did.
Yeah, really.
So you can easily replace them, right?
So I won't be talking about Friday the 13th, but maybe some ripoffs. I don't know. We'll see. But
there's a longer list of those than imaginable, so there's always some.
Oh yes. And then lots of stuff. There's some cool surprises coming up there, and I guess judging from the poll that I put up last night, I guess I have to watch Event Horizon, which I'm not super looking forward to because I don't know. It's still been a while since I've only seen Event Horizon twice in my life. The first time was when it came out, and I did not like it at all. And then everyone started talking about it like it was this lost masterpiece. So I'm like, oh, I should revisit that. Maybe I'll like it, because I didn't like it when I saw it when I was younger. I thought it was really crappy. Let me watch it again. And I watched it again. I was just like, no, I still don't like this. But if I'm gonna delve into it and try and solve some unanswered questions about it, I guess maybe I'll have to dig super deep into it, and maybe I'll like it more. I don't know. We'll see.
If you want to watch Sam Neill, just watching The Mouth of Madness.
Yeah, well, I just did that. I'll do that any day. Pete, you saying that might make me turn off this video and then just go watch that. You can watch that movie at any time. All right, guys. Well, thank you very much for joining me. I'll see you guys shortly. Let me switch up real quick here just so I get everybody up on the screen one last time before we click out of here. But I appreciate you guys for coming in to join the episode and coming on board and saying hello. We will do this again. I think I want to do streams like once a week. Like I'll probably do streams on Wednesdays. It might be my thing. We'll find out if that holds true. And probably sometimes I'll have guests and sometimes I will not, but we'll see how it goes. But next week we'll talk more about remakes. So bye guys. See you later.
Bye.
Thanks, Josh.
Bye everybody. Thanks, Josh.
Bye.